So I checked out the announcement teaser for Jailer 2, and I absolutely loved that. I found it humorous. I enjoyed watching it, and I was like, you know what? If the first film is like this, I've got to check it out. And I ended up checking it out. And if you're a huge fan of Jailer, I recommend you just dislike the video now and leave a negative comment down below letting me know I'm wrong. Hello there, namaste. So I finished watching Jailer, and I got to say this movie really felt like it just dragged on. There's a lot of pointless scenes in there. This movie felt like it ended 3 times before it got to the... This movie ended 3 times. All right, so let's just get to the synopsis, the explanation as to what we get. A retired prison guard sets out on a quest for revenge after his son goes missing while investigating a smuggling case. I was aggravated with this film because when it started out, it starts off with like a stolen statue, and then they go to the lead star. And my thought was, if this is about the investigation of the stolen statue, shouldn't we followed that till the son got stolen, and then we follow the lead star as he's trying to get his revenge? The first issue I have with that is I don't know where he was going for revenge, because in the beginning, he kills one person without torturing him for questions. And then he takes out 2 more people without torturing them for questions, only waiting for his family to be put more in danger. So the head hero is literally putting his family more at risk instead of interrogating. And that was something that was bothering me. It's just like, you already know, and this is already like 30 minutes into the film when he starts getting his revenge without investigating how his son disappeared. But what I'm hoping is this film is primarily satire. If it's satire, it makes sense, but it didn't feel like satire in the beginning. It wasn't till after the second ending, that's where it started to feel like satire. But like I mentioned, the opening just doesn't feel right. They're focusing on the one they paid the biggest budget for, the one that's bringing all the attention, the one I'm gonna get all the negative reviews for, because I didn't care for it. It just felt like it was forced there. It just reminded me of I forgot the film I watched with him in it, where they just forced action scenes into the situation just to make him an action star, which is why I think this film was kind of making fun of that in the final ending, where they dealt with the actor. One thing that should have made me know it was kind of satire is there was this one scene at the very beginning, which was a whistling conversation. It was so stupid. I couldn't stand it. It was aggravating because he was helping his grandson make a YouTube video, and I could respect the grind there. I could respect the grind for his grandson trying to get others to rope him in to help him with his channel. I can respect it. But it's like there's this whole it's at least a minute, maybe 2. This film feels like 5 hours, 6 hours. It's this long sequence of 2 people just whistling at each other. Whistling, looking one way, whistling, looking the other way, nudging their head, whistling. It was so annoying to watch. I think it was supposed to be funny, but I didn't watch this in theaters. I watched this alone because my wife refused to watch it with me. She doesn't want to watch it. So I watched it alone, and it was just aggravating. I was just staring. I'm like, I'm bored. I'm dead. I'm brain dead. But after the son gets kidnapped or whatever, disappears, goes missing, the higher ups in the police force are just saying it's a suicide. They're saying it's a suicide. Oh, he disappeared around this bridge. It's a suicide. They're not doing an investigation. That leads nowhere. That where the cops are corrupt at the top leads nowhere. Maybe it'll go somewhere in the second film, but it leads nowhere here. But the hero's wife blames him because he was an honorable officer and his son wanted to be an honorable officer, and we'll get to the definition of honorable in this film. We definitely will, because I saw it as corrupt, but apparently they were using the word honorable. You were doing your job and you taught your son to do the same. She basically blamed him that her son died because he was emulating his father. But they completely butcher that honorable thing later on. So it was just like, I didn't understand the blame. And then literally his son is his father at the very end of the film. You just see the similarities, and it's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why'd you do this for that when you literally did the same when you were in power? I mean, that there's a lot of weird stuff. I mean, I don't know the way the jail system works in India. I don't know the way the police system works in India, but what looks like corruption looks like corruption. I didn't start to have real fun till they introduced the driver who kept trying to run over the hero. He just constantly kept trying to run him over, and I thought that was entertaining for a few bits. And then he basically forces him into helping him dispose of his first body, and then dispose of the other bodies, and then he's kind of wrangled in to do all this stuff. But all that basically puts his family more at risk. Instead of interrogating these people, instead of just killing them outright, he could have found out more and actually protected his family. But no, his family's put at risk. His grandson's life is in danger. And then he has to go to some doctor to get himself committed, but he isn't committed. His family's committed, but he is not when he's the one with the issue. It made no sense to me. It made no sense. But then again, I have no clue how mental health professionals work in India. Are the insane people allowed to go for walks on the street, and the families are kept cooped up in the hospital? Is that how it works? And I didn't understand the doctor. He seemed very... I think his form of therapy is just the smile therapy. Smile. I mean, there is things to it, but you can't just smile. You have to be able to talk. You have to force yourself to move. You can't just sit there and smile. That would just be weird. You have to actually talk. You have to force yourself to smile as you're talking. It'll change your mood. It's not just smiling. But literally, the hero goes to one of his old prisoners that he used to be the jailer for, and calls in a favor and gets armed bodyguards to assist him. It's weird. It doesn't make sense, but I did like all the really elderly actors coming in, all these famous actors coming in to play small little roles. I did enjoy those. It's always fun to have a cameo here and there. But they steal a statue. He saves his family. He gets the bad guy to bow and scrape to his family. He turns over the statue to them. He has a recording of the villain bowing and scraping. And it's like, okay, the movie's over. We're an hour into the film. The film is over. No, it leads on to the second part of the film, where they're basically sitting at a table, and as they're being hunted by a multitude of other people, the sharpshooters are shooting through the house, killing everyone around them, as the hero and his family are just sitting around the dining table. But I think this is why they had that conversation with the doctor, because the actor basically starts smiling for no apparent reason. And again, it felt uncomfortable, just like when the doctor said it. It was just weird and forced after everyone was killed around him in the dining table. But I would say I did like one piece of dialogue when that one actor, that little actor who's in like almost all of these films, all these action films, asked for a cup of coffee. And I was like, yep, get that instant coffee made. Just boil some water and pour it in. That's all you need. But the villain starts calling other people for backup, only to find out that all the people he's calling for backup once were prisoners serving underneath this jailer, and they all owe him favors. And we get this flashback of him being a corrupt official. Again, I don't know how prisons work in India, but I think it's illegal to make up your own rules on the spot. If it's against the law, it's against the law. Just because you're the head warden at the jail doesn't give you permission to change things on a fly. I mean, there's a scene where he's cutting an inmate's ear off. I can understand you punishing those who started the fight. I can understand you investigating in the prison to see who beat up who started the whole riot. But slicing someone's ear off because they told you that you weren't following the rules, and then you cut off his ear and tell him that you make your own rules, I don't know, but I see that as corruption. I was so confused because it's just like they were telling me he was an honorable officer. They were telling me that he did everything right. And then what I see is all evidence to the contrary. He is not doing everything right. He is corrupt. He makes up his own rules. Of course, he's a hero. He's allowed to get away with doing villainous things. But yeah, I found that aggravating because it's just like you introduced me. You kept telling me his son died because he was honorable, trying to emulate his father. It makes sense that his son was who he was because his father was who he was. He was emulating him completely. And of course, after that, the flashback of him being a jailer, the movie ends again. He hunts down, he comes to the territory of the main bad guy, only to find out his son is alive. Of course he is. We've got to drag this movie on even longer now. But I'm not gonna lie, finally, after this second ending is where I started actually enjoying myself, because the whole thing turns into a heist film, and the whole thing is very comical because it's satire on actors, because there are only 5 people that can get the thing that he needs to get in order to free his son. Only 5 people, and one of them just happens to be an actor. And it seemed like this sequence was created to make fun of the fact that actors who aren't qualified for roles are put into roles just because they're famous, just because they're popular, just because they have money. I mean, they even have a scene, like a running gag, of the lead actor pulling off his wig, which the hero in this film is wearing a wig for this film. So the actor, like the whole thing, that's why I was like, oh my gosh, this whole thing is satire. The entire thing has to be satire. Because if you think back on it, there are scenes which were funny and completely stupid, just like the whistling crap at the beginning. But I had no clue it was satire. There was nothing there for me to latch onto that it was satire. I mean, the first time, I guess, is when he said, oh, we just had this flashback. But that was literally right before the second ending. He tells us, oh, you got this whole jailer flashback. But yeah, they need to basically get this actor to steal this crown in order for a fake crown to be taken out, and then they fake an attack of killing innocents in order to steal the crown, in order to get it to the criminal, so the criminal would free the son and return him to his father. Yeah, that sounds like a mouthful, but it is. But of course, they still can't end the film. They can't end the film. The son turns out to be a traitor. The son turns out just to be as corrupt as his father. And yes, I am calling the jailer corrupt. If you make up your own rules when you're supposed to be following the rule of the law, you are a corrupt official. Dang, I'm gonna get so much hate for this review. I'm gonna get so much hate. But I went into this knowing I was. I could have just avoided the review, but I just had to do it. I couldn't not say my piece. Yeah, but the son ends up turning out to be just as corrupt as the father. And the crown was placed on display of everything, and witnessed the confession of his son wanting to be corrupt, taking extra money or whatever, everything he did wrong. But he does give his son a chance to apologize, but his son refuses to. If the villain finds out the crown is fake, the son returns to the villain to talk to him, let him know like, oh, I've talked my father into allowing me to do this, but he's not gonna cut slack to whatever. And the son had a gun on him. The father gave him a gun when he returned to the villain, and he tucked it behind his pants in where it's always tucked in these films. But the villains took it from him when he went in to talk with the bad guy. He didn't have it till but for some reason it appeared back in his back belt, where you know where it's at the very end of the film. Yeah, but the film was trying to get me to feel something at the very end, because the father ends up taking out his son because his son became his father but wasn't able to do it correctly, I guess, because there were all these villains, all these bad guys that happened to be like these old actors who came in for cameos, which honestly I enjoyed. I will admit that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the satire aspect of this. But he made allies with all these villains, but wouldn't allow his son to do the same. Does that make sense to anyone? Does that make sense to anyone? I mean, I would agree if this was made for kids, but it's not. It's too bloody to be for kids. This is supposed to be meant for at least teenagers, at least people who are growing into maturity to watch. And it's just like, this story makes no sense. Who can watch this and be like, okay. I mean, if you're watching something like Robot, I know I got hate for that because it's a kid's film and everyone tries to defend kids' films. Kids' films should not make sense, but some of the best kids' films are enjoyed by adults too. But in this one, it was just like, I don't understand. I don't understand. If the whole thing was satire, I would have enjoyed it if the whole thing was a heist. Just the stupidity of the heist, of dealing with an actor, which was like breaking the fourth wall consistently. I would have enjoyed that. But no, we didn't get that, because there's lines that kind of break the fourth wall, and then the fact that there's a set within the set, which does break the fourth wall, because I believe the director was trying to make fun of what happened behind the scenes. Maybe he changed the third ending last minute to make fun of what he was experiencing on set. In the end, this review went on too long. There were too many things that are bad in this film, but I did like seeing Mohanlal, because I loved him in Lucifer. I'm excited to see him in the next Lucifer sequel. I've seen a few other films with him in it. So for him, I was like, okay, I like his role. I like how he's just playing a small little scene. But every time they introduced one of these elderly actors, I kept feeling like they were gonna get, like, as they're walking and doing the slow-mo, I kept thinking they were gonna get like their own title intro. But no, they didn't get their own title intro. It was just there. I watched the film. I said I was going to watch it. I think I should have just stuck with the announcement teaser, because that was far more enjoyable. I could watch that announcement teaser so many times and get a laugh out of it. The film, however, I laughed at the driver a bit. And when it got to the satire of the actor near the end, I thought that was funny. I mean, heck, maybe this negative review, I will be like tied up to the tree and someone will pay me to direct the next film. And if someone complains about it, then I'll be executed. Because again, that satire hit well with me, because just like with the grandson creating YouTube videos, it hit home for me. It's all about the grind. But I've babbled on too long here. Yeah, just go ahead and leave a thumbs down and a negative comment down below. I know you want to. Thank y'all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.